Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a topic we always want to jump into is how to be more productive, right? We've got Mr. Productivity with us, Mark Struczewski, and we're going to love where he takes us and how he shows you how to stop swirling, right? All of you are swirling, kind of running around like little chickens with your heads cut off. And Mark is going to show you how to be way more productive and how to bring vision and clarity to the ideas that you want to create out there. And I'm excited about having Mark on the show. Mark, welcome.
Anthony, thank you for inviting me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
You know, breaking through today's world, right? We're all drinking off a fire hose. There's not one of us that's like, well, in my grandfather's day, he might have been able to do one thing or a few things at a time, right? And my judgment is even back then they were kind of going crazy because they're trying to figure out bills and my grandmother and all that kind of good stuff. But now we threw in the cell phone, we threw in social media. There's not one of us entrepreneurs that are running a company. Now we have to run write a marketing agency, now a social media agency. We have to run a human resources agency. The stuff that it takes to be an entrepreneur or be in the world today is multiplied times 10. So a lot of us are feeling overwhelmed. Let's just start there. And how do we start to work with people with overwhelmed?
Well, when you're overwhelmed, there's no way you can be the most productive version of yourself. You can't, because you are dealing with the stress and a whole host of negative emotions. And so when I first started my productivity journey many, many moons ago, I would start with how to be a better planner, how to set better goals, how to use a calendar app, how to use a to-do list. And then as the years went on, I realized that's not the beginning. The beginning is with your mental and physical health. Because if we don't get that in alignment, what happens is you're pushing a rope, and that's not very effective. So whenever I have clients, the first thing we do on their first call, talk about mental and physical health, because that, I am convinced, is where it all starts.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you're saying the vehicle, look, the man in the monkey suit over here, I got to figure out, am I in good shape, right? And when you say good shape, let's kind of measure that. Is mind, body, soul kind of shape? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, for example, I'm 59 years young. I wake up every day. I'm excited for the new day. It's like when I was a little boy at Christmas time, I couldn't wait to see what Santa brought me on Christmas morning. I wake up with that feeling every morning. Now, I'm kind of disappointed, quite frankly, there's not a Christmas tree and lots of presents every day. That would be really cool, but that's not reality. But I wake up like that. But I also know people wake up and they're like, oh, I got to get up and go to work again. No, you get to go to work. And I know it's just a word here and there. I've got a 27-year-old daughter, and she stays up late every night. And I always get these messages from her, and they're like, oh, I got to get up. Or this morning she sent me a snap and she said, hey, I got to log onto my computer to work in 10 minutes. And I don't want to get up. I'm like, girl, how many times do we have to talk about this? How many times do we need to stop and go, this isn't working too well for me. Maybe I should go to bed early so I get up rested. But I listen, I can't talk to her. I've been trying to talk to her for years. She won't listen to me. And I get these snaps from her every morning. And I'm like, okay, girl, you know what the answer is. Go to bed at a reasonable hour, get up at a reasonable hour, and you'll have all the energy you need. But, sometimes talking to your family doesn't work. I think you can relate to that.
Well, and also they're not, look, there was a place where I got to in my life where I could see that my thoughts, actions, behavior were causing a life that I was living. Now, that's not always been true, right? There's been times when I blamed others. I remember blaming my mother, who worked at Denny's, for my problems. Oh, it's my mom's fault. If your life would suck too if your mom worked at Denny's, or I grew up in this certain neighborhood. Oh, well, your life would be tough too if you grew up there. And somewhere along the way, I stopped blaming others, and I started realizing that the life I was living was my fault. Mm-hmm. Now, good, bad, and ugly, right? That's not something that most of us are trained. No, it's our environment. It's our thing. By the way, I don't want to blame myself. I want to blame you, or Mark. I want to blame you for the problems. I want to blame my wife. I want to blame my kids. It's never my ego doesn't want to blame me. I want to blame someone else. But somewhere that victim mentality is kind of a useless one. And you realize that, and you don't realize that until you do realize that you're kind of stuck in this way of being that says, well, it's always their fault. And until I start pointing the finger back over here going, oh, maybe it's my thoughts, action, behaviors that are causing this life that I'm living. And until I can see that, then you can work on the actions, right? The behaviors, but it doesn't really work until you can start to see that. And, there's no class that we took. I mean, do you remember taking a class where I learned math? I learned, how to divide, I figured out a long form division, but no one taught me that my thoughts, actions, behaviors were going to cause the life I was living.
I think the number one sport in the world is the blame game.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take responsibility. And I once saw a video from Gary Vaynerchuk, and he said, I take personal responsibility for everything that happens at VaynerMedia, VaynerX, whatever, because it makes things easier. Because playing the blame game is a waste of time and energy, and it just eats you up inside. So I take responsibility. But why is it your fault the guy cut in front of you on the freeway and made you mad? Well, no, because if I would have left couple minutes early, I wouldn't have run into him. So I'm a big fan of taking full responsibility for everything in my life. It just makes things a whole heck of a lot easier.
But there's nothing I can do when I'm a victim, right? There's no agency there, right? All of a sudden, when I switch over and I take responsibility for it, now I have agency, right? I'm in control of what I do next. Right. But when I'm a victim to the world, when the world happens to me, when I start to look at the world like, okay, that car cut me off. It's me. Now, listen, that car's just driving. The world does not give a Jesus about you and what you're doing. The world's just the world. Right. But we make up the story that the world's treating me bad. The world's doing this thing to me. And that's not true at all. It's the world has no care about you or what's going on with you. Now, when I take responsibility for it and go, look, I could drive a little slower. I could leave 15 minutes earlier. I might have my experience in traffic be one of discovery. Like, look at all the amazing people that are happening out here. Look at what stops traffic and what happens with people. And spend a good time in my car meditating while I'm driving to work and really enjoy that time by myself in a vehicle, as opposed to rush. You're trying to eat, you're trying to sleep, you're trying to, I mean, the things I've done in cars, when I'm in a rush or that insane mode, it's just kind of, it doesn't feel real healthy.
One of the first things I suggest people do is when you begin to feel overwhelmed, when you begin to feel stressed, anger, I mean, you can feel the stuff beginning to build up inside you. What I tell them to do is get up from your computer, and I want you to go outside. I don't want you to go from the big screen of your laptop to your phone screen. I want you to go outside. If it's cold, grab a jacket. If it's raining, get under shelter. And don't think about anything. Don't talk to anyone. Just be quiet. You can close your eyes and do some deep breathing. If you want to take it to another level, then take your shoes and socks off. I work from home. Go out and stand in the sun, bare feet on the ground, and just give your body the opportunity to go, because what happens is when we're constantly bombarded with all these dopamine hits from all these screens we're on, we get really stressed. Matter of fact, I told somebody once, this what I'm going to tell you is going to make sense to you, but it sounded crazy to them. They were getting toward the end of a project and they could see the finish line. And they texted me and they say, I'm so frustrated. I'm overwhelmed, but I can see the finish line. I said, go get up right now and take a 5-minute micro break outside. And they're like, are you kidding me right now? I can see the finish line. And I said, do you want to crawl over the finish line, bruised and battered and bloodied, or like Usain Bolt? And they said, okay, it's not going to work. Okay, just, all right, prove me wrong. They went outside for 5 minutes, came back, and they won the marathon. They finished it. They felt so great. And they go, I cannot believe a 5-minute micro break did that. I said, because you're not giving your body and your brain a chance to relax. And I converted them. I do it all the time. When now I won't say 100% of the time, that would be a lie. But when I start feeling frustrated, I will go outside and just just be quiet and just let my brain recategorize, resort everything, and then take a collective breath. And then I come in and I got another all natural boost of energy.
Mm. You know, I've got this voice in my head. I've named him. I call him Fred.
Okay.
Right. And when I'm stressed out, Fred gets loud. And, you know, like possibilities, you know, like the more stress I get, like it feels like the smaller the window gets, like the things I can figure out get smaller. Like the possibility of life gets smaller. And Fred kind of shrinks that up and stresses me out. And when I walk outside, you know, in fact, I'd like to have tattooed on the inside of my eyelids, don't underestimate the value of one conscious breath. Just right. Maybe a couple of them deeper than I've had all day, and just take a moment to breathe in that I'm okay, that the dinosaurs aren't eating me. I'm not, you know, there's some flight or flight stuff that's, it feels like it's carried on from my prehistoric being, or something that's, you know, making up a story that I'm at war or something. But truth is, I'm just trying to solve a problem, or trying to finish a project, or right. And just that overwhelming feeling, or that stress part of that, is just my body's defensive mode of you know, of nerves. And if I could take a deep breath, I love that, Mark. I love where that goes. I love that walking outside, taking a deep breath gives me a chance to kind of reset, recalibrate, maybe wiggle my toes a little bit on the grass. It feels pretty awesome.
Yeah. And the number one pushback I get from this is a litany of excuses. Well, I work at a corporate, you know, building. I'm on the 10th floor. Do they have elevators? Well, yeah. Well, take the elevator down. Well, I got all these things to do, but what you're doing is you're getting up in your computer, you're going to the break room, and you're complaining with all the other coworkers. Why not gift yourself the time to just give your body a break? So I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want, when I'm on Zoom calls, if I'm on a long Zoom call, I will tell the people before we start, I'm like, hey, I get up and walk around throughout the call. Okay. I'm still here. I'm still on camera. I'll walk back there. I'll have my headphones on. I got to keep moving. Like I have a standing desk. I cannot just sit. I got to be moving around, because we were not created to be sitting in front of Zoom calls all day. We were created, we have legs to move. And I think people in this 2024 technology were right in front of the computer. That's all we're doing all day long. And if we're not on the computer, we're on a mini computer called our phone. And that is affecting our mental well-being more than people realize. I'm just on Facebook. I'm just on TikTok. I'm just on YouTube. Do you know what that's doing to your brain and your subconscious mind? It's not good for it. But I'm learning things. Yeah, but why don't you go read a book? I love reading books, either a Kindle book or I like reading a print book. I don't, you know, there's something about, I still love the feel of a book. I love smelling books. And I just tell people, you got to get away from the constant bombardment that we have. So we're either going from our laptop screens to our mini screens on our phones, or the big screen in our living room, but our eyes are always being bombarded with all these things. And then we're like, oh, I can't sleep. I wonder why.
Yeah, you're almost, your retinas are almost burned out, and for sure there is a cost for it. I was sitting in the doctor's office this week dealing with some personal stuff, and it used to be that, you know, maybe there was, you know, call it 60% of the people were on the phone. I literally looked around that room, that office, and 100% of the people that were in that room were on their phone. Like literally every single person, young, old, some had two devices. Like there was a kid there, he had an iPad and a cell phone. One woman, she was talking on one phone and she was scrolling on the other phone. And I thought to myself, look, this is, it's, you know, we are bombarded, right? That ability to be present in the moment is tough. Now, look, that whole cause to me checks us out, right? If drugs and alcohol were my first form of relief, right? I had that, you know, right? I got that first hit of oh my God, here we go. I don't have to feel anything, right? It got me. I feel like social media is doing that to us today, right? It's that same feeling of, look, you might as well just say it's another shot. It may not, smell like tequila, but you ever sit and scroll for an hour? Like all of a sudden an hour's gone. You're like, I just got done watching cats fight. Hurricanes happen. Just the silly stuff. Instagram has figured me out perfectly. It'll be workout stuff. It'll be food, and then hot girls, and then fast cars, and then some recipe. It literally, feeds my brain at every corner of its want. And I'm like, just one more. I feel like just like an addict. I'm just going to have just one more, and I'm going to turn off. And then all of a sudden it's another hour goes by, and I'm like,
yep.
Did you just do that?
I don't have Instagram on my phone. I don't have TikTok on my phone. I don't have Facebook on my phone. I don't say this to brag. It's just that if it's not there, I can't use it. I have LinkedIn on my phone. I have X. X is my outlier, is my playpen. But I don't want these things on my phone, because when people tell me, well, I don't have enough time to get everything I do, to get everything I need to get done, I always ask them, like, well, how much time you on social media? Like, what does that got to do with it? Well, if you're spending 6 hours on TikTok and you tell me you don't have time, I think we found the problem. But people get really, really defensive when I ask them how much time they're spending on social media, or I say, show me your screen time. They're like, why? It's like,
yeah.
You called me for help.
Ask an addict how much they drink, or an alcoholic how much they drink. It's the same response, right? I mean, it's the same response you get when you ask an addict how much they use, or an alcoholic how much they drink, as we asked. But yet every single one of you walk in an office, where's everybody's phone? In between them and their computer, right?
Do you remember when you used to go to the bathroom without your phone because you didn't have it? Nowadays, everyone like, well, of course you got to take the phone to the bathroom. And I'm like, but what did you do before you had a cell phone?
Mark, how about this? How about make out with your wife and the phone's right here? I think to myself, when I was a kid, if you would have told me that you're going to carry a device that knows what you do, where you're at, who you talk to, how much money you have in an account, to watch all my emails, I'd be like, no way, I'm an American. No way. This will never happen. No. This ain't some communist country. Yet I pay you $1,000 a year for a new one every year for the new one, right? I want the new phone, and it watches what I do. It knows. I mean, I start talking about, blue slacks. All of a sudden, hold on, blue pants. Sorry, you youngsters out there make fun of my slack work.
I know what you meant.
Right? I mean, some kid will be right back. Slacks, you old man. You're right. Are those your dungarees? Right? I mean, so like, I get it. Like, all right. So if I turned off social media, if I could just turn that off and release myself from that alone, right? How much more time would I have in my life?
Oh, there are so many studies out there that says the average use of people on social media, I don't believe them. They're way underreported. There's no way you're going to tell me it's 4 hours a day. No way. No way, because people are not counting the time when they're at the red light. Oh, I got a red light, stop sign, whatever. They always have to be on their phone. And I have this new thing now. If I'm talking to you and you pull your phone out, I will stop talking. And if you say, well, go ahead, I'm listening. No, I want to see your eyeballs. I want to see your eyeballs. And I'm like, dude, that's more important than me. I'll just walk away. I mean, I don't always have my phone in my hand. Why? Because I don't want to be controlled by it. Now, I do have a nice phone and I do use it, but I'm only using it for LinkedIn, and I use Snapchat because I got a lot of friends of mine who we snap each other throughout the day just to get snapshots of our life. But I don't get used by social media. I use social media. And the best way to do that if you're addicted is don't have the apps on your phone. If you don't have the apps on your phone, well, yeah, you can go download it again. But listen, people who listen to your show are probably adults. It's called freaking discipline. Act like an adult. Stop blaming Apple and Android and Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, and take responsibility. It's my fault that I'm spending 7 hours a day on TikTok. not TikTok's fault. Yeah, their algorithm is spot on. But if you delete TikTok, they're not going to come knock on your door. So I just get really tired when people start blaming other people. Again, we talked about this in the beginning of the show. Stop blaming the technology or the apps. Take responsibility. I mean, I was on TikTok for a while, got up to almost 1,600 followers. Now I realized I haven't got a single lead from TikTok. Why am I wasting my time on TikTok? So I abandoned TikTok and I only focus on LinkedIn because that's where my tribe is. So I'm not wasting my time on other platforms.
It's funny. My kids, when I travel with them, they get up and they have all these, they call them streaks. I didn't know what a streak was until my kids they tell me. And some of them have hundreds of streaks with people, and they'll get up in the morning. We'll be traveling Croatia. We'll be traveling in Europe somewhere. And it's 30 minutes of doing these streaks and checking in with all these people. And then I'm like, are you done with your job yet? Can we go have breakfast? Are you done with your job? You know, like they have to like check in with their office. And their office is their streak office. I'm like, how much they pay you for this one?
Yeah. Right? Well, I do have streak. Like I said, I'm a 59-year-old solopreneur. I do have Snapchat. I've got 4 streaks. One is my wife. One is my best client, ironically, best client. She's a CPA, CFO. She's a real smart person. One is my database person, and one's my youngest daughter, who's 27, I told you about earlier. Now, I started on Snapchat because of her, because I don't get FaceTimes with her and everything like that. But for me to keep my streaks alive, it takes me about 30 seconds. Because all I do is take a random picture and the streak stays alive. So I would never allow myself to get down to where I have 100 people. 4 is manageable. It's like less than 60 seconds to do all 4 if I want to get creative. So listen, if I break a streak, it'll break my heart, but life goes on. But I only have 4 people. These people who have, 100, like your daughter, that's crazy to me.
but it's just going to say, look, the algorithms are the dangerous part, right? They have figured if social media really raced to the bottom of our brainstem, that like the mouse in the trap going to the sugar water, having run back to the sugar water the whole time, right? If social media really raced to the bottom of our brainstem, that addictive mindset, that look, even to the fact that Snapchat, they don't get paid. You have 4 of them, right? She's got maybe 40 of them or 140, whatever that number is. They've figured out a way to get you to come back every day. And that's a pretty good thing for somebody who's not getting paid on some, even if it's just 4. Look, the justifier works great. I get it. Like I get it. But if social media raced to the bottom of our brainstem, which I believe it did, I think they've done a great job of maximizing the amount of time I spend on there. And all of us are spending way too much time on there. What I'm really worried about, what's about to happen with AI, it's going to race to the top of our brainstem, right? To the part of us that's going to have us in relationship, right? I imagine what's going to feel like to be in a relationship with an artificial intelligence that feels like you have a relationship with it, right? If social media felt like we had this thing we had to go back to all day, and you can see the driver, right? You can see people in social, Facebook, Snapchat, all those, but you also see it in the video games that people are playing, the relationship they have to that video game. There's this one in us that just can't stop. And here, I'm telling you, I'm one of those guys who's erased all of them and said, I will never get on any of them again. And somewhere, like an addict going back to relapsing, I talk myself into, well, it's for the show. It's for the podcast. I need to go see this new thing that the podcast put out. All of a sudden I put up Instagram again. All of a sudden, oh, look, fights, cars, girls, food, oh, look. And it's an hour back into it. And I'm like, I just justify it. It was just like smoking for me. Did you ever smoke?
Nope. Thank God. I never did.
I quit smoking several times. And I remember relapsing. Like I was at a poker game one time, and I would smoke a cigar at the poker game. And then one day I was like, I hate these things. I want to smoke a cigarette. I smoked 1 cigarette and I was back to a pack a day the next day. That same feeling is what I feel like with social media, and it doesn't feel friendly. Now, look, I'm with you. I have agency. I can take my phone. I can turn it off. I can do that. But, I'm not sure that all of us can do that. And I'm not sure I can do it all the time either. I feel like there's times when that doesn't feel like I've got agency there as well. So I get when you talk about that. I want to feel like I have more agency there, and we have more agency.
let me just say this. So I look at Snapchat different than kids do. So what I'm doing is these are 4 of my closest friends. Now my wife, she does it because we're married and she thinks it's cute. But the other 3, one lives west of me, one lives up in New York, and one lives in Ohio. And what I'm doing is I'm taking like snapshots of my life. Hey, this is what I'm working on right now. We're on a podcast or something like that. So I am not, like I said, I just have the 4. And for me, I will stop doing it if it doesn't bring me joy. But the good thing is there's no algorithm when you're doing the snap streak, because you're just taking pictures and sending them. I don't go into the other stuff on the app. So, but still, it is addictive because I'm one of these people. I love streaks and I can't start over at one. Like I've been running every day since August 29th, 2017.
Wow.
And
every day, wait, you run every day?
Every day, at least 1 mile.
So every day, 1 mile since when?
August 29th, 2017.
See, that to me is one of those addictions that's, it feels healthy, right? Maybe it's not. Maybe there's sometimes when you're supposed to let the body rest. But if I'm going to do something, getting out there, moving the body, right? I'm guessing they're not all 7-minute miles or.
No. Listen, I'm 59. I'm not out there to impress anyone. I'm sure sometimes I look like a drunk zombie when I'm running. I don't care. I'm running because I want to run. I read an article. We had Hurricane Harvey back in 2017 that flooded the city with 51 inches of rain. And my wife and I, our house and area didn't get flooded. But during that storm, I read an article on runnersworld.com that said what I learned from running 1 mile a day for 250 days. And I said, I'm going to try this. And I never stopped. I started August 29th, 2017, never stopped. And people say, well, you're going to burn out. I said, no, because I'm not running. I'm not Usain Bolt. I'm not trying to look, glamorous. I'm just out there running. Sometimes I run fast. Sometimes I run slow. It's always at least a mile. Sometimes they go longer. But my point is that when I have these streaks, I don't like to start over at 1. Now, because to me, it's a built-in motivator. So as of today, I think I'm at 2,585 days. It would devastate me.
On your running streak.
Yes. Wow. So it would devastate me if I had to take a day off. I mean, I've run when I had COVID. I run when I had back pain. I ran when I had something really painful called a thrombosed hemorrhoid. And yes, it is as painful as you think it is. I ran because I believe if I'm able to go out and run, I'm not going to take the easy way out. A lot of people get up and go, I don't feel like running. The temperature's not perfect. I run in my house in February 2021. We had a very rare ice storm here in Texas, Houston, Texas. For 3 days, it was 15 degrees. I'm not running when it's 15 degrees outside. I ran in my house. And back then I was doing 5Ks. I ran a 5K in my house those 3 days. One of the days we lost power all day, I ran in my house with my flashlight because I was running at 5 o'clock in the morning back then. So I adopt the attitude of no excuses. There are people who won't run if they go, well, my astrological sign, which I don't believe in, says I shouldn't run today, or I make advice. Look, you're just making excuses.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's serious. And I don't like when people make excuses. I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because of this. And then they wonder why they're stuck in the same position year after year after year, because you're blaming, there goes that theme of the show again. They're blaming everyone else for their problems instead of taking responsibility.
Yeah, there's no, if I let Fred in my head, if I let that voice rule what happens, every single morning, that voice in my head, I can mess with you. This last couple of days, I made a shift in my workout. My wife wanted to work out with me. I work out I get up at 5 every day, and I work out at 5:30 every day. And then my wife's like, well, I can't do 5 o'clock. Can we do 6 o'clock? I'm like, all right. My want was to work out with my wife and see how this whole thing would go. But all of a sudden, just that little shift, right? All of a sudden I'm noticing myself like 5 minutes to 6, I'm laying in bed going, I woke up at 5 because that's how I normally wake up. I went back to bed. And then all of a sudden, Fred, that voice in my head, almost starts talking me back. Like it was almost like I had to start over again these last couple of days. And like, no, 3, 2, 1, legs over the bed, get to my sneakers, right? The whole goal for me when I started was create a pattern that got me to my sneakers. If I could get to if I get my legs over the bed, 3, 2, 1, legs over the bed, get to my sneakers, get the sneakers on. Once my sneakers are on, down the stairs, make the coffee pot, and head out the door. I'm pretty good. Rarely have I gone back after my sneakers were on. In fact, I can't think of any time I've ever gone back after the sneakers on. So putting those steps into place, right, to talk that voice out of my head, it took some practice and some knowledge to learn that, but there's agency there, right? And so it started with, setting my alarm, it's putting my sneakers out in the morning, before I went to bed, have my shorts and my sneakers there ready to go. So I didn't have to go find them. I feel like I'm trudging around. So therein lies, how did you start that behavior? How did you get that first week, that first month, that first section of your, of that process?
I don't recall. I mean, I just decided to do it on August 29th. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't too bad. And I did it August 30th, August 31st, September 1st. And all of a sudden, 10 days, 50 days, 100 days, 1,000 days. I'm like, wow, I can't, 7 years. This August, it was 7 years. And people always ask me, what is your morning routine? That's probably one of the most frequently asked questions I get asked. You want me to share my morning routine with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So my morning routine starts the night before. It's really important people understand that.
That's right.
5:30, I stop eating. 6:30, I stop drinking water. 7:30, I go screens off and I journal in a print journal and I read. Go to bed about 8:15. I'm up between 4:30 and 5 without an alarm. First thing I do when I wake up, I turn all the lights on in my bedroom. My wife and I have this really odd relationship. She sleeps on the couch because she gets comfortable watching TV. And so I sleep alone in bed, but there's nothing wrong with our marriage. We're just fine. We have one of those vitamin D lamps in our bathroom. So the first thing I do, they say, expose yourself to sunlight as soon as you wake up. Well, the sun's not up before 4:30 in the morning. So I go douse that. That seems to wake me up with the lights on and that. And then what I do after that, let the dogs out. Then I do one push-up, one proper push-up. So I'm not one of these cheating ones, a real proper push-up. Then I squat for 4 minutes. This is something I learned from the book Built to Move. It keeps your hip flexors in good shape. Then I do farmer's carries with 20-pound weights in each arm for 6 minutes. I do 2 minutes of kettlebell swings. And then every other day I do a dumbbell weight workout, or I will just go to, we have a long hallway and I'll do a reading walk back and forth for 30 minutes. That's what I do within the first 45 minutes of waking up.
Nice.
I get my body moving. I purge that cortisol. I take my supplements and let's go. A lot of people get up and they're like, they got one eye open and they're just got all the lights, turn all the lights on, because the lights, if they're really bright, tells your body to wake up. If you keep all the lights off and you're just trying to feel your way around how you're going to go fall back asleep because you're not giving your body signal. So I used to go running in the dark, but we don't live in a bad area, but we have some apartments that are kind of questionable. Even though when I run, I do carry my loaded gun with me. Still, I wait for first light to come out. As soon as that sun starts waking up, then I go for my run. Unfortunately, right now it's like 6:50 in the morning, which kind of irritates me. I can't wait till we fall back an hour, because then I can start running earlier again, because that messes me up. Because remember in like June, I go running at like 5:50 in the morning. It was great. I mean, now it's an hour later. It really messes up my day, but that's how I start my day. And a cold shower. Don't forget the cold shower.
I think that's really a great way. When I move my night to morning, right? That behavior, when I started going to bed earlier and getting up earlier, right? When I moving that whole thing, you can actually see literally a line in my, a line where my entire life starts to become more powerful. Right. And it wasn't something I always did. Right. It was something that, especially when I was, drinking and the stuff, the behaviors I would do at night. I stopped drinking. Right. I stopped any, started working on my health. I started going to bed earlier. I started getting up earlier, and all of a sudden money happened. Like I'm not talking about a little bit of money. I'm talking about multiples, 10x the kind of money I was making before. Right. The ability for me to see things and grow companies and multiple companies in dynamic ways. And it really has started with that morning, moving nights to mornings, right? So going to bed earlier, I'm in bed at 9, and I start reading at 9. I usually fall asleep at 9:30, and getting up at 5, that gift right there was just a huge line of change in life. And I'm with you. I don't know that I could tell anybody that might be one of the biggest changes in my life.
I'll tell you why I started getting up early. I read a book by Robin Sharma called The 5 a.m. Club. And when I read the book, I was not a 5 a.m.er. I'm like, 5 a.m.? I'm not getting up before the sun. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to read the book. I've read the book 4 times now. And it changed my life because most people are hitting snooze, 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 snooze. And then they get up and they're in a panic. Yeah. And I wake up and I'm like, it's, my dogs are 5 a.m.ers now. They know when I wake up, they're there. Hey, we got to go outside. And it just, most people are not starting that early. Matter of fact, what's funny with my snap streaks and my business, my friends, we're always in the rush. Who can send the first snap of the day? Because we always put the time on there, So I take great pride of like, hey, 4:29. It's because it's fun because people go, oh man, I didn't make it today, and sometimes I sleep in to like 5:15 and I lose that battle. But I look at life as joyful. I generally identify as Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. I love life. And, I'm not without pain. I have issues like everybody else, but I wake up this morning. I thank God I woke up. I mean, some people, there's 2 ways to say the same word. You can say, oh, I got to go to work. Oh, I got to go to work. I mean, same words, say them totally different. And I'm saying words matter. And I tell you, one of the things that my biggest pet peeves, Anthony, is when people trash talk themselves. I'm a moron. I'm an idiot. I'm a jerk. Why are you talking to yourself? You should talk to yourself more sweetly than anybody else in your life. Would you agree with that?
Look, if that, like I said, that guy Fred in my head, Fred sometimes could be a jackass in the things that he says about me, right? If Fred was a human, I'd punch him in the throat. I'd walk up and go, seriously? And there are times, so one of the practices that I create in the morning is, from the second I get up, I go to my bathroom and I turn on, there's enough light in my bathroom to get a suntan, right? So I boom, turns on and it's there, fans on, brush my teeth, same routine I go through every morning. But one of the things I do to shut off Fred is I play a video. Like I'll go to YouTube and I love, finding Eddie Pinero or some.
Oh yes. His videos are awesome.
Right. I'll find some great morning videos that are positive that I can listen to, and it literally feeds my brain with some good ideas, right? As opposed to Fred, who can sometimes be a little worried. And I don't know, Fred feels like a hangover leftover from my dinosaur brain, right? Maybe when we were prehistoric, getting up and finding dinosaurs, looking for dinosaurs was key, right? Yeah, you didn't get eaten that way. Making sure there was no T-Rex in your neighborhood, or there wasn't. Right? It probably was helpful, but today I've got more stuff than I need. I've got Costco around the corner. I've got Home Depot. I got more of everything that I'll ever need in my lifetime ×3. So, the abundance is there. So that voice sometimes feels a little outdated, and I've got to trick it back, right? I got to be careful so I can trick it back. And little Eddie in the morning, little Eddie Pinero in the morning, one of his videos, you're talking about positivity or hard work or some great thought for the day, feels way more comfortable than what Fred in the head would say. So I love where you're going with that. Having those morning routines that prime, I tell other people, I wake up sometimes in Jurassic Park and I gotta stroll over to Disney World.
There you go.
I gotta tune in Disney World. I don't necessarily wake up the most positive thinker in the morning. I gotta tune in. Now, the more and more I tune in, the faster I get there, the less and less dramatic it gets. So I think that there's something to what you're saying, is that those morning routines really do create some neat spaces to be in.
I just love how you talked about the dinosaur, and because when we wake up, we just woke up from hopefully a good night's sleep, and you wake up peaceful. And when these people hit the snooze alarm, first of all, most alarms snooze for 9 minutes, but when you go back to sleep, your body goes into that cycle. So it's a 90-minute cycle. So what happens is you wake up, you hit the snooze button, you go back to sleep, but your body goes, oh, another 90-minute cycle. And then it goes off in 99 minutes again. And your body's like, what's going on? I thought we're going to bed for another 90 minutes. And that's why the snooze bar is nasty. And I tell people, they go, how do you wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock without an alarm? I said, it's all about consistency. I'm in bed, sound asleep between 8:15 and 8:30 every night, and I'm up between 4:30 and 5. If you do that to your body 7 days a week, yes, that means on Friday night you go to bed at 8:15. You don't go out and party till 3 o'clock in the morning. If you keep that consistency, you wake up and you have no problem. Now, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm kind of like C-3PO in the original Star Wars, which is actually the fourth movie, when he says, do you mind if I power down? That's how I feel, because I've been going since 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's why, like, when our church says we're going to have this thing from 6 to 8, I'm out. Like, it's 6 to 8. Like, dude, 8 o'clock. If I'm at your church, I'm asleep at 8:50. Plus, my body knows it's 7:30. I go screens off. I journal. I read. So if I don't have that, I have trouble sleeping. So I'm like, hey, if you say 6 to 7, I could do that. But I'm not doing until 8 o'clock, because I know myself. If I am not screens off and journaling and reading at 7:30, I will sleep horribly that night. So I just like, sorry, I'm not coming to your party. I'm not going to your function, because I treasure my consistent sleep habits more than going to your party.
That's beautiful. Mark, I got to tell you, that's the key right there. It's finding those systems that make it work, right? As we find those systems and being rigorous about them, having 100% commitment to it, really does create it. Now, sometimes I'll veer off for an event, but, I've also learned that I actually take a pretty good nap, right? So I like you, it's somewhere around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I have the ability to pop down and take a nice little power nap. I hit 30, 45 minutes on a good nap, down to my shorts, get under the bed. I might be able to do an event that night with my wife. This is really important for her. We'll go there, but I'm with you. I think that having those systems in place creates some consistency and has our brains feel a lot more comfortable. We don't feel so overwhelmed, right? That's tuning in. And when you talk about healthy mind, body, and soul, it starts there.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, something funny. If I do stay up late, like if we have, like, one time we had a power outage, and the power outage was until like 11 o'clock at night, and I can't sleep unless I have the ceiling fan on, even if it's winter outside. I got to have air moving around. I didn't fall asleep till 11:30. I was still up 4:30, 5 o'clock. My brain goes, hey, we don't care if you went to bed at 3 o'clock. You're getting up at 4:30. And now I had to take a nap that day, but my body woke up at 4:30, because why? I've been doing it for 5 years. My body goes, oh, you went to bed a half an hour ago, but it's 4:30. Let's go. And I would get up and I would take a nap. Now, here's the thing for me, because I'm in bed so early. If I take a nap, it's like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. If I take a nap too late in the afternoon, I won't be able to sleep. So the thing people got to look at, I need a nap. When's a good time to take a nap? If you're early to bed, take the nap earlier. If you go to bed later, take the nap later. It really depends on when you are going to bed, because if you take it too late, you can disrupt your sleep.
Come on, a good morning nap. Oh my God, that's luscious. I get up. It's like on the weekend. Sometimes like on a Friday night, I'll stay up late, and I still get up early like you do. I'll get up. I have my morning routines, and then I'll go eat breakfast with the kids or family, and I'll come back and have a morning nap. Mm-hmm. Ooh, doggy! You get me after a nice little egg breakfast, and I go back to bed at 9:30 in the morning and get an hour in. Oh my God, that's I feel like they're luscious, right? I mean, there's something about that morning nap that feels really great, and I catch up on that other hour of sleep, and then you can and then I'm a much more reasonable human, right? Because when I don't take care of my body, right, I end up in conversations where I'm tired, and where I don't want to be is hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. That halt right there is a bad spot for me to be in. Red alert, Buck Rogers, be careful. Remember, danger,
Buck Rogers.
Remember, come on, danger. That was, stay away from Anthony. I get hangry. Whoa, my God. Instant asshole. Oh, sorry. Instant jerk. It's funny how that happens. So, I got to be careful, right? I know my warning signals. I know where they are. I know when I've been there where all of a sudden I'm in one of those halt areas. I go unconscious, right? And my behavior becomes to a place where I end up having to do some sort of amends work to somebody because I said something or I did something. I wasn't able to control my mouth, right? And I wasn't able to control my thoughts. Actually, the world feels when I'm tired, I make up all the Fred in my head wins, right? He starts making everybody jerks. And I know that's my fault when I see more than 3 jerks in one day, right? If I see more than 3 jerks in one day, it's Fred. It's Fred's causing all that, right? It's like, so you start to get some signals. I don't think that I had those signals earlier on in life. I'm just becoming much, much more aware of those as I'm developing those, right? It wasn't something I knew as a young man that I was being controlled by Fred or controlled by those voices. So yeah,
I got to share this quick story with you about napping. So I was taking a nap and I told my wife, I'm going to lay down here for 30 minutes. And so I laid down on the living room floor. Okay. I didn't want to go to bed. I just laid down on the living room floor and I had crashed out. I fell asleep. My dog woke me up because she gave me a big slobbery kiss on my lips. I'm like, boy, that'll wake you up in a hurry. I'm like, okay, that's not my wife because my wife doesn't have like whiskers. I'm like, oh, that's the dog. I know where she licks. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, that's a good one.
My fault. I laid down where she had access to me.
Hey. That might be all right. We're another good time. That's a different podcast. We'll talk about that one. But yeah, I got look. Listen, that's I get it, right? I mean, those naps sometimes they're luscious, and you get there, so it's great. So let's go back through it again. So, feeling overwhelmed, right? Life is overwhelming. Feeling like overwhelmed multiple days in a row. Feeling overwhelmed multiple weeks in a row. We might want to start looking at our health behaviors, right? Thoughts, actions, behaviors, right? A big opponent, both of us are, for getting up early, having a healthy morning, setting a tone for a healthy day, right? As opposed to, staying up late at night. By the way, nothing good happens at night.
Yes.
Usually, I've never gone to my ATM machine and pulled out money at night for anything positive. I've never been in after 9 o'clock. I never really drank much stuff that was positive, right? Snacks and food after a certain period of time is rarely positive, right? The TV I watch is usually just as much junk food as anything else, right? I need to watch one more episode of some binge watching, which, look, I've done that, right? I can get just as high on binge watching. Sometimes we'll do that. I get it, but it affects it really does affect the thoughts, action, behaviors I have the next day.
100%. And if you're not cognizant of it because you're on autopilot, well, you need to address that, because with our phones, it's so easy to be on autopilot all the time. Start living your life intentionally. Don't just go along to get along. If you want to be an early riser, tell to your friends like I do, hey, I'm not coming to your party. And I want to get so famous, Anthony, that people go, oh, we're going to have a party. Oh, wait a minute. I want to invite Mark, but he's going to leave at 7. So we're going to start the party at 3, and then he can come from 3 to 7 and leave. I want to be that famous so people actually, now if I have a party, it's going to be from 3 to 7, then get the hell out of my house. Okay. I'm sorry.
But by the way, one of the most famous partiers I ever went to was at Hef's house at the Playboy Mansion. That's how he parties. Because, by the time I was going to his house, I've been to a couple of parties at his house, and they're like that. They start at like 3:30 and they're done at 7:30, and you're out of there. And I was always like thinking, I always thought that they partied all night long. I'm like, no, you're out of a party at 7:30 at night. I'm like, what? And then you go to some after. That's a whole nother lifestyle. But I'm with you. You want to get there, and that's an amazing spot to be in.
Yeah. Someday.
Yeah, no. Listen, it's amazing that's why you're such a great coach. Is that it's a simple plan, right? It's sometimes I like to complicate the bejesus out of it, but it's really a simple plan: thoughts, actions, behavior. If I can work on those, right? The things that are not working for me, junk food, right? The places where I've got junk food for my body, junk food for my brain, right? Those are the behaviors that are having me be unconscious and have the ability to deal with life. Because the truth is, humans, we're these most amazingly creative beings, right? My real belief is that inside of me, when I'm well-tuned, I'm able to create all kinds of amazing stuff. I bring to the table creativity in abundance, right? I can come up with all kinds of great ideas and solutions. And one of the gifts of being a leader is bringing great ideas. You bring hundreds of ideas to every problem. And the more my mind is tuned in, the healthier that I am, the more conscious I can behave, the more creativity I can bring to a solution or to a problem. And that's a gift. So great work. I really appreciate that, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. Well, as always, I'm grateful for you being on the podcast. Every time you have another breakthrough, Mr. Productivity, I love you. You keep it easy. You keep it simple. You're a gift to our audience members. If Mark, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Just go to one website. Make it real easy for you. MrProductivity.com. It's all spelled out, MISTER, MrProductivity.com. Find out about the Mr. Productivity podcast. You can read my blog, join my email list. Anything you want to know about me is at MrProductivity.com, and go there and check out my About section, because on my About page at the bottom, I got some interesting things and interesting facts about me that most people don't know. I already talked about one, about my love for Snapchat, but there's some other things on there if you're interested to find out more about me, Mr. Productivity.
Awesome. We'll put all the links down below, and we're grateful as always for you being on here. Audience, if you guys could take a second, last week we had so many of you downloads. I mean, it was more downloads than we've ever had. We broke the 32,000 people on YouTube. It's just amazing what's happening with our audience and the growth that we're having, and all the work that our audience and the people in the background, Alyssa and Joe and our team are doing tireless work. If you guys could take a second and like and subscribe right now. Some of you guys made it to the end of a podcast and you weren't subscribers, and it means the world of difference. And that's how we get Mark. It's how we get guests on here by the numbers that we have. And it makes a world of difference to us. If you could like and subscribe, if you guys could do that now, I'd be grateful. If you could tell your friends about it, I would also be grateful. And I am so happy you're here. Thanks for listening, every single one of you. Thanks for being here.